What's going on, everyone? My name's Dean. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I know people have been asking for this for a couple of weeks. Is my settings video? Oh, a couple of weeks. The game's only been out a week, but they've been asking for my settings that I play with in Cricket 24. So we do have our epic difficulty that we are using in Cricket 24. I'm just going to move myself down here so you can still see the names of all the things and what they are at, and what I have adjusted at the moment. So I still haven't worked out my AI stuff. Normally I would turn the run rate down for a test match, but I've turned the bowl quality up. I wanted them to bowl a bit smarter than they previously have been doing, so that's just up a little bit. These are all the same, base difficulty of Legend AI, and hopefully that gives us something to go with. For the bowling, we chuck it on a base of hardest, but what we do is we actually, we just modify it a little bit, because I feel like sometimes on hardest you get it feels like it's a little bit buggy where you just don't have any window to actually put the input. So we adjust these to 8 and the spin difficulty to 92, but the other settings that start on 0, I think we push them up to 8. If you want auto appeals, feel free to turn those on. I like doing it myself, but I'm sure some people would want to turn automatic appeals on so you don't have to worry about appealing when you've got a chance. As for batting, we have tweaked it a little bit so that it's a bit harder than what it used to be. We go with a base of hardest, and we've turned a lot of these to about 3. Now, if it is on hardest, which is what you want to play on, then these become, I think it's like 0 and 100. They're all 100s and 0s, but we've just tweaked them a little bit. 3s, 95s, and that's sort of mostly what happens here in this particular section. So if you want to change those, feel free to pause the video and go from there. Same with the fielding. We just don't want everything to be like 100-0, so just 95-5 with the fielding, just because sometimes, yeah, the hardest just becomes a little bit ridiculous. As for the physics, I don't think it's something I changed too much in this particular game, but I have, I think, lowered the shot force slightly, while everything else is pretty much default. This is something I'll probably play around with in the future to try and get a bit more variety. I might have some custom difficulties depending on the type of pitch I would like to play on, and that might change the spin and things like that, and especially the pitch friction and bounce. So that's something I might look into soonish, but as for right now, what I just am playing with the same settings for all arenas. And the umpire settings, you don't really need to touch those because I think it's all mostly done by the umpiring anyway. And they'll generally get it right or wrong, or you can review, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I would like to adjust some of these as well in the future. So that's all you need in the custom difficulty settings. As for your actual general settings, what we do have here is we work in the metric system in Australia, so we have wickets runs. If you want it the other way round, which is where I think majority of the rest of the world display their scores as runs, wickets, you can do that, and you can chuck on miles per hour if you wanted to as well. I do still have the ball trail on. I have tried it in the past without it. It is a little bit difficult to see. I don't have amazing eyes, so I do need the ball trail on to actually see what's going on. I also have the tooltips turned off. Those are the things that just says, like, when you're batting, it just tells you, how to hit an aggressive shot or whatever. We already know how to play the game. We don't need that. So you can uncheck that box. As for the other things, I do have auto skip to career player off. I don't actually know if this is correct, but in Korea, your settings are slightly different. So I do have it turned off because I like to do it myself, in case, the state of the game means that we only need 10 to win and I need to get on strike or something like that. Those are just the generic things. As for my batting and bowling controls, we use arcade to bat, which means I use the face buttons, X, square, circle, triangle, to hit the ball, and then I just aim with the left stick. For me, I've used this as soon as they brought it in Ashes Cricket. The reason I did that is because it's more responsive, at least I feel, than the analog sticks. There's a bit more room for error with the analog sticks, or the DualShock Access sticks. I don't know what they're called these days, but I think with the sticks, you can sometimes have bad input, whereas at least with the face buttons, you are actually pressing the button you want, and you get less error with aiming with that. Pace bowling pro, that's where you push the stick back, push the stick forward, which I use if I'm doing a test match or I'm playing as the team, because my career player is a spinner, which then I use the standard spin bowling controls, which is the Cricket 19 default. This is a bit confusing here because they have arcade, which is where you like aim the pitch marker. Then they have standard, which is what I use, and then they have pro, which is like the old controls where you had to spin the stick in order to actually get the ball to spin. It was a bit confusing, but standard makes the most sense, and again, it's all about responsiveness. It is the most responsive, and it's probably the easiest one to bowl with as well. But if you're having trouble, feel free to use arcade and aim that pitch marker wherever you want it. And this leave button doesn't affect me because I use the arcade controls. If you were using pro controls for batting, then you could change this to whatever you wanted it to be. Batting and bowling control direction, we want that to be camera relative, because if you're playing from behind the camera, you want to be able to aim what's in front of you. If you're playing the other way, you want to be able to aim as to, what's the other way behind you. Bit confusing, but makes sense. Camera relative, just it makes logical sense to have that on. As for the cameras, these are the ones that I use when I am playing as a team, so not my career camera. These are the settings that I will use if I want the broadcast look or an old school cricket look that you used to use in old cricket games and you see on the TV. And that is broadcast 1, broadcast 3, broadcast 1, broadcast 3 for your bowling, fielding, batting, running cameras. If you want to check the filter on that, feel free to. And I turn Pro Cam Catch Camera off. I don't think that's really worked for the last 3 games, so check it, uncheck it, doesn't really make a difference. It always seems to turn itself on. I don't think that setting actually works, but I always have it checked off. And these are if you are playing as 2 players. If you do play like locally against your friend and you've got 2 people playing on the one game, you probably should set these to broadcast 1 and 3, to be fair, because then that way you sort of get a balance between the 2 of you as to where you need to be hitting the ball. As for the audio, this is something that was not very balanced when the game first came out. I have the menu music off, I have the loudspeaker music turned down, I had the crowd sounds turned down a bit as well. And I have the commentary off, but that is something you will want to have on at various points, because apparently the commentary slider here is linked to the cutscene audio in career mode. So if you have a cutscene that has audio, you won't hear it unless you have commentary turned on. We found that out in the last game. You also don't get it in this game, so it's the same sort of thing there. Accessibility wise, this is what we've had in the past. It's exactly the same. So we turn the length indicators pretty much off here. What it used to do was it used to give you like 4 different colors for whether it was a good length, a short ball, a full ball, or a Yorker. So we have them all to white, so you can't tell that. So it just does make it a little bit more difficult. And then our pitch marker is black, which I prefer because it gives you a nice contrast on the sort of green or brownish pitch dirt color. The rest of these I leave the same, so no issues there. And that is actually pretty much it. I think the only other thing you can do is you can turn off the length indicator in-game, but that shouldn't take you too long at all. And I guess for career, I'll just give you a quick rundown of my career settings, which are on hard selection difficulty, and I have auto skip to career player off. So that's it. That's it. That's all of my difficulty settings, if you wanted to know. So hopefully that helps for everyone who's been asking for difficulty settings, for camera settings, whatever. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.